there is a movement in the field that is trying to romanticize rape. They're trying to adjust the narrative. They're trying to say, well, it's not really how it is. And, well, it's not such a bad thing. Maybe you, even in all of your trauma, you need to kind of re-examine your perception of what actually occurred to you. Let me make this very clear to everybody that's going to be watching and that are listening right now. These beings are architects of deception. And what they're doing to us and through us, they're not doing to us or through us for us. They're doing it for themselves. No, you cannot possibly give consent if you're being deceived. I am reminded, I did a show not too long ago. And it was after the end of the show. The host called me aside and said, listen, man, he said, we're off air. And he said, I want to read an account to you. And he said, this lady has been following your research. This should break our hearts. We should want to go to be one of this topic should not make us want to be some guru. This should really make us consider where we are as a species. He said, you know, this lady's been following your research and she just wants to tell you her story. She said, because nobody in the field's really talking about this threat. They're all trying to hypothesize themselves out of trauma. And what happened to her? She said that she was in bed at nighttime. It's being manifested to her at the side of the bed. You probably heard me talk about it before. Okay, you're gonna hear it again because I got to push this issue. And it looked just like her husband. They copulated. They had a physical moment. You know what I mean? I don't have to paint it for you. And then afterwards, he gets out of bed, looks at her, and then she starts to realize that this is not really her husband. This was a literal dream state, a theatrical production manifested to and through her by that entity. The entity tilted his head, grinned from ear to ear, and suddenly his visage, his appearance, began to fuzz in and out. That's when she started looking at its real facial features. That is not consent. That's deception. She did not consent for that. Because really, if she had to consent, she would have to have all the facts at the beginning. See, that was never the issue. The issue was, I am manifesting to you in an image, but that's not really me. I am not the image. She said suddenly his facial features, his real appearance began to manifest, and then suddenly she just looked at him and it faded into a smoky apparition, floated out through the hallway and disappeared. Then she came to her senses and herself and realized her husband had been laying there by her side the whole time. That's not consent. And we need to stop labeling this as consensual. Because we have a human rights issue right now in this phenomenon. No, it's not okay what they're doing. It's not okay. But these incubi entities have been doing this for millennia. Rex and I were talking about that before the show. They've been doing this since the late Iron Age. When we get back into the Apocrypha of John, in the text, it says they stared into the eyes of the women. Wouldn't you know that in Joanne Scurlock's academic paper, Baby Snatchers, she talks about this same exact phenomenon and how in antiquity these beings would go and visit pregnant women, stare into their faces as they took the baby out of their wombs. Now, in the modern 21st century, we would call that the missing fetus syndrome, would we not? Well, they were too experiencing this in prehistory. And what breaks my heart so much, guys, is that these precious women, they did not want their babies to be taken. And so what they were doing is they were taking iron and they were creating second faces as amulets. They would put it around their neck as a necklace. And they would have a metallic or an iron face. And they did their best to make the iron face look like their own face, in hopes that when they're in the middle of slumber, when that entity descended down upon them at nighttime, that that being would look into the different face. And so their belief was that if I don't look into their eyes, then they will not take my baby. They literally went that far to ensure that this phenomenon did not occur to them. Now, did they believe it was a threat? Duh. But what's happening now in this field is that there are people out there who are glorifying, and we're going to get into this too, spectrophilia, where it's really a cool thing that you could be married and have intercourse with a ghost. Like, that's really cool. And I don't know where we got to this point in the field outside of, I don't know, Hollywood, romanticizing this subject and saying, hey, listen, it's all good. It's not all good. It's not all good. We're being manipulated by a superior species into self-replicating them, not evolving us. No, replicating their species through us. And this is exactly what I said it was. It is a human rights issue. We see this narrative being mentioned in every monotheistic religion, especially in Babylon, in the Levant, the cradle of civilization. It doesn't matter if it's jinn literature in Islam or demonological literature in Christianity, or if it's Shadim or Dibuk literature in Judaism. It's the same phenomenon through and through. I'm going to read you something. It's from what's called the Baghdad text. It's found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, but it is a specific mention about what we would consider to be the hybridization program and the incubi spirits. This is fascinating. This is from the Baghdad text. My book, The Skin That Crawls. The author gave insight into male and female possession. We're going to get into this very quickly. If she sees in a dream a man standing against her, this is what I just talked to you about with that case study, right? The lady's in bed, another man comes to her. She thinks it's her husband. She's in a dream state. If she sees in a dream a man standing against her, or lying with her, or inflaming her heart with the passion of intercourse, if he prevents her from having relations with her husband in order not to be impregnated by him, this is what they were dealing with. And this is what I found to be true. These beings are creating a hybridization program by breaking down every human right we possibly have.